Hey guys, Matt here, and today I'm at the field taking a look at the discs from this year's Trilogy Challenge. They are the Westside Crown in the hybrid plastic, the Dynamic Disc Bounty, and this is in the fluid plastic, and the Latitude 64 SPZ3 in, I forget what they call their clear one, the Lucid or VIP for Latitude, but that's what that is. And that stands for Superheroes Pirate Zombie. It's a part of a starter pack that they started producing for the European market, and I got to play in the Trilogy Challenge. Did not play particularly well, but won't blame the disc for it. I threw all three of them a pretty good bit. I'm going to show you how they fly out here in the field in fairly calm conditions. I've got a mild left to right crosswind that's kind of blowing a little bit out, but we'll see how that affects the flight. Start out talking about the SPZ3. I found it to be a controllable, slightly understable, but with a steady fade type fairway driver. It's about a speed 9. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but if I had to guess, I'd say 9.4, -1.2, like a little bit faster stag. In fact, if you take a look, it's a very stag-like profile. It's got a very steady dome, fairly refined edge, but it's got a thicker nose than the stag and a slightly lower PLH, that's parting line height. So the blunter nose would make it slightly more stable, but the lower PLH would make it less stable. So it nets out pretty close to even. Then the Bounty, I found to be very similar to a warship, but a bit slower. It's got a little bead on it, which stables it up a little bit, and the wing's not quite as big, but it's very straight stable. You can get it to turn a fair bit. It does not fade hard. It doesn't even fade hard when you hyzer it, but it'll hold the line. If you get a look at it, it's got a fairly flat top. It's got the bead, scooped out underside, but a fairly rounded nose pointed down, which will make it less stable. And then we have the Crown. The Crown has been compared a lot to like a slightly less stable and a little bit thinner profile Wizard. Another good comparable is the Discraft Challenger. Is pretty close in feel to this one. It's something like a 3.401, so it'll hold the line pretty good, but it's not going to hook up that hard. If you get a look at it, it's a classic flat top bullet nose putter with a moderate bead. Even a JK AVR is not that far off from this one. So I'm going to give all these guys some throws. Hopefully give you a good idea about how they fly. I'll be throwing them in the order of speed, driver and mid-range putter every time on each different line, so you can get a good idea of what the discs are trying to do. I'm going to start off with some flat backhand throws, and we'll go from there. Okay, so those flights were pretty tidy numbers. 280 feet for the Crown, almost 300 even for the Bounty, and 330 for the SPZ3. I'm going to try them on a flick now. I don't expect these two to go all that far, and honestly, none of these discs did I feel great in a forehand, but let's see how I can get them to do today. All right, to give you guys one more look at these, I'm gonna do a spike hyzer line. But first, let me review the forehand on these 3 discs. The Crown and the Bounty went about 200 and 225, lots of turn, not quite overstable enough for the type of disc I like to forehand, and my form, while pretty good forehand, is not clean enough to make something like this, especially a beaded disc that's this understable, work well for me, so I'd stick to using them backhand. The SPZ3, I didn't even try to throw that hard. I was just trying to keep it clean and make sure it didn't roll over and hit these guys doing some sick breakdancing moves over here. It went 405 feet, basically dead straight. A little bit of turn, a little bit of fade. I've never thrown an understable disc without some sort of wind aid that far and that smooth. That was really impressive. Even during the tournament, I was really nervous about it turning too much and missing lines. I really enjoyed it up to 300, 320 feet, but gosh, I didn't think I could throw it that far. Really impressive. So I'm going to do one more line. I'm going to do a big hyzer line sweeping around, seeing if I can get a good hyzer bomb distance out of any one of these, and then we'll do final thoughts. Alright, so that went kind of how you would expect. The Crown was about 290, a little further when I threw it than when I threw it flat, oddly, because I got to flip up and ride a little better. Also, maybe I'm warmed up a little more, so that helps. So I think I could probably get this a little over 300 feet if I kept trying over and over, but it seems like on a backhand line in between 275 and 300 is where it likes to live. It'll turn up and ride a little bit, not crazy glide, but it's got some. And the fade's fairly late and mellow, even on that spike hyzer line. You could tell it didn't fade off too hard. I do want to comment on the hybrid plastic. If you take a look at where I hit the chains during the tournament, it's got a lot of little visible dings, especially on this black disc. But even in throwing this very rocky field, it's not beating up that bad. It's doing a pretty good job of staying gritty and feeling nice, even though it's taken a little bit of abuse. So I probably won't bag a Crown because I like a little less stable of a putter and a little bit more overstable for throwing, but I actually kind of enjoyed it. Pretty good disc. The Bounty I got out a little bit further than I did on the flat line. It really rode that hyzer line, flipped up and went straight a good long way, and the fade was super mellow, as you could tell. It went about 340, which is pretty good for a fairly slow mid-range like this. The glide's really nice, the fade's pretty mellow. If I wasn't already bagging warships, I would consider this one. It's a good deal slower than they are, so it wouldn't bridge that fairway driver gap that I like to do sometimes with a warship, but really good disc. If you're a new player, absolutely get one of these. I threw it a ton at the tournament and again now, and this fusion plastic has not even shown the slightest bit of wear. There's no dings or no gouges. It's just a little bit dirty from where it's been on the ground. So great job with that one, dynamic disc. And on that backhand hyzer line, the SPZ3 actually didn't go much further than it did the first time, or than the Bounty really. It went about 350, maybe 355. Held a good line, faded hard and late. The glide on this thing's not crazy, but it can hold up to a little bit of power to a point. And I definitely, when I threw it hard with some anhyzer, it didn't always come back, especially if there was a little bit of wind. But for an intermediate to medium-armed advanced player, you could totally see that as their main fairway driver. Really nice. And then I've heard in the in the base plastic, the Origio plastic or Zero plastic, it's a little bit less overstable and definitely should beat up quicker. So I really like the way this one's thrown. Probably wouldn't bag it because it's kind of like in between where I want stability wise. I'd either want to be more overstable or less, but that forehand throw getting out that far was really impressive. So I didn't throw these particularly well at the tournament, but I threw them pretty well today and enjoyed doing it. Definitely check out your local Trilogy challenge, and I hope you have a good time throwing them. Thank you very much.